My name is Hanuma. I work at a firm called EPAM and I work as a solution architect. So, in my day job, right? So, one of the first and foremost responsibilities to understand what the clients are going through, as in what are their problems on ground zero. So, whenever I used to talk to them, right, one thing that is quite common is in almost every industry, there are documents, right? Like as you came into the hall, as you came into the hotel rather, you would have received certain forms, right? Like pamphlets, notes, whatever things that you would have received, right? And everyone has this badge, like all of you, right? So if you look at this one, right, this is also a form in one way or another, right? So there is a lot of effort that is actually going through in creating this kind of data. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through a journey, as in I'm going to share my learnings on how we can actually use AI-based solutions to retrieve information from forms like this. So I created a demo, like I'm basically from Hyderabad. So while I was coming, right, I already had the demo set up and all. But the moment I landed in Chennai, the first thing that we did was me and my friend, we were supposed to take a cab. Like we tried to book an Uber, but unfortunately that did not happen. Like we could not get the ride. So what we did was we went to the prepaid taxi hub. Like in the airport, they have this stall, right? So the moment we went there, they asked us where we are going, like basically where they want us to drop. We said we need to go to the Lilla Palace and we are attending this AzConf. They said, okay, fine. Then they said, you need to pay 600 rupees. I said, okay. The moment we paid that, they gave us a receipt. So at that particular point in time, what I thought was maybe whatever demos that I have prepared, right, they might not be as relevant as the document that I received at that particular point in time. So what we are going to do today is we are going to see how we can actually use these receipts, forms, and the identity cards that we are getting, right, in this conference itself and in the nearby stalls, and how to extract information from them. Okay? So the talk of this title is extracting information from documents, leveraging the power of Azure Form Recognizer. So Azure Form Recognizer is one of those AI-based services that runs in Azure as a managed service that we can use to extract information. And we will see how we can actually get that information out. So one disclaimer is, I'm not a machine learning expert. I'm not an AI expert. So I'm also like a developer like you. I'm like an architect like you, right? I'm like an engineer like you. So we have content for every one of you. Like if you have been using these things already, like if you have used Form Recognizer already, maybe I can learn from you, or maybe you can learn from what I'm going to talk. And for someone who has not used it, you will understand how to use it. And if you are a machine learning expert, probably you can help us learn together how it actually works, because that is something that I'm not an expert in. And if you are a network engineer, definitely there are some considerations that we need to take when we are actually deploying solutions in cloud. For that matter, any solution. It cannot be, it may be on cloud, it may be on premises, right? So we'll look at all that stuff. So as I said, right, as a developer, if you have some prior experience, that is well and good, but if you don't have, nothing to worry. So we are going to see how we can build an AI-based solution without any prior experience. And as an architect, we are going to look at some key considerations and a couple of integration patterns. And if you are a DevOps engineer, we'll look at a few considerations for deployments. So the goal of this talk is we will look at something known as pre-built model. The word pre-built, right? It itself means that somebody has already built it. So we are going to see how we can consume that. Now, whatever I am going to build, it may not be relevant to you, right? So you will have to build something on your own. Likewise, I mean, I built something on my own when I had my own problem, right? So we'll see how we can build custom models. And then we'll also look at the considerations. Again, right, setting the context, documents are everywhere, right? Like you take any industry, there are like hundreds of employees who are actually sitting there verifying the documents and then seeing whatever data that is there in the document and making the entry in an online system, right? You might have seen that in your organization, right? Like, have you gone to your HR and said that, hey, I bought something, can I claim this? How many of you have used reimbursements in your firm? Right? For every reimbursement, you would have to submit a bill, right? So when you are submitting that, what happens is there will be a team which will be actually verifying whatever bill that you are submitting, right, is legitimate or not. And what they'll do is they will actually verify with whatever amount that you are putting, right? Like, let's say you are asking for 100 rupees and you are submitting a bill for 100 rupees. They will check that, and once they are fine with that, they're going to verify a few things, right? Like where you went, who actually paid for that, and what was the content. Like if you bought some food, like whether alcohol is included in that or not, right? Like there are some restrictions. So all these things are actually being verified by few personnel, and a lot of human effort actually goes into this, right? So if you think from a enterprise standpoint, and where you have a lot of forms that needs to be submitted, you'll see the effort is humongous. And if we can automate at least 10% of it, we are going to save a lot of effort, right? A lot of hours of effort. So one of the things that we are going to focus on today is templated documents. So templated document is some document that has a pre-built template. Like this identity card, right? This badge that you're having, it has a standard template. You'll see AZ community at the top, then you'll see the name, then you'll see the designation, then organization, and then what are you actually, like in my case, I'm a speaker here. You might be an attendee, or you could be a speaker also, right? Then there are crew who are actually helping us in this entire setup, right? So we'll see how we can do this. So let's imagine that if we need to make those data entries, right? Let's say you are actually being hired for a position. Let's say I applied for a position, right, where I need to sit together and verify these documents. And one day I get 10,000 documents, right? Like just imagine, just think about it for a second, right? Like, can we do that? Can we look at the forms, the documents that we are getting in? Can we sit together and make entries in the online system? Is it possible? Okay. So let's see what happens, right? If we were in that position, we will be like this.
Happy Diwali, folks.
Isn't it? Does this resonate? Anyone? So can anyone tell me what is the name of this movie? Not able to hear. Louder. More energy, guys. Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why I chose this is because one, I'm a very big Rajinikanth fan, and second thing is I'm in Chennai, so it is obvious that I need to show something about him. The third thing is, okay, so what is Form Recognizer, right? So Form Recognizer is a service that actually runs in the cloud. By cloud, I mean Azure. It can actually extract key value pairs. If you have a document, right, it can actually read the document using OCR, and then it will be able to extract key value pairs for you. And if you have textual information, it can actually detect that. And let's say you have a table, right? Let's say you buy something on Swiggy. So when you order something, right, Swiggy would send an invoice on your email. So in that invoice, there will be certain categorizations, right? Item 1, this is the cost of it, this is the tax, and this is the total amount, right? So on and so forth. That typically comes in a tabular format. So wherever you have things like that, this is something that we can actually use. So this is the actual definition that is there in the Microsoft Docs. Azure Form Recognizer is a cloud-based applied AI service. We'll look at what is an applied AI service in a moment. And it uses machine learning models to extract key value pairs, text, tables from your documents. Now it actually analyzes the forms and documents that you're submitting. It will extract the text and data, and it is also going to create the relationships. Like if you have a form, right, let's say you are applying for an admission, right, somewhere. So in an admission form, typically you'll have first name, last name, then you'll have to put in your date of birth, gender, email, so on and so forth, right? Basically, if you look at that, it will be either left to right, like you will have a label on your left, and on right side you'll see a box, or you'll see a label at the top, you'll see a placeholder beneath that, where you can actually write, right? So we'll see a couple of examples. So let's look at a demo. So this is what we see on the screen is a studio. It's a web-based tool that we can actually use for training and evaluating our models. So one of the problems with machine learning is like as a software engineer, right? You need to write a lot of code. Like, I mean, I understand that a lot of things have been solved already in Python, .NET, and all those stuff, right? But still, you don't have visual interfaces, because the moment you have visual interface, you'll be able to correlate that very easily. So this is one such tool that can actually help us to get started with that. So as I said, right, this is the actual taxi bill that I got from the airport, right? So let's see if we can extract information from this. So here you see there are like different models here, different types of categories rather, read, layout, general document, right? And then we have invoices, receipts, business cards, identity documents, and then a couple of them are in preview, so we are not going to go there. And then we are going to actually look at how we can train our custom model. So let's start with something as an invoice, right? So before we even go into the invoice model, let's look at general document thing. So here there are a couple of documents which are already there. Now to access this particular studio, the web-based solution, you need to actually log into this website, the FormRecognizer studio. And for that, you need to have a subscription. So if you do not have a Microsoft subscription, right, Azure subscription, you can go ahead and create a free one. Like they'll give you $200 worth of credit, so you can use it for 1 month. So let's see how we can extract information from this. Is it visible, everyone? Can you guys see? All right. So let's click on this button which says analyze, right? Let's see whether it will be able to read something or not. So it takes a couple of seconds. It actually depends on the resource that we have created, the subscription tier that we are in, and also the internet connectivity. So as we can see here, there are like a lot of key value pairs that got displayed, right? So let's look at this one. There is the serial number, right? 84890. So this is the serial number, like this is something known as invoice, right? Like we can consider this as an invoice ID. And here there are contact numbers, destination they did not enter, right? The passenger name, right? Then we can also see signature, right? I did not sign it. That's a different story altogether, why I did not sign it. And then we can also see the taxi number, right, here. Here in this region we see the taxi number, but in the key value pairs we are not able to get that, right? So the idea is the moment you put them in as left and right values, you will be able to extract that information more efficiently. Or you can put top and bottom, right? So let's look at another example. So this is something, while I was going to my hotel room, right, yesterday after attending this conference, I was like feeling a bit hungry. So what I thought is I'll purchase a biscuit packet and go to the hotel room and then eat it. So this guy gave me this bill. So if you see this, right, this is in a different format. Like what we saw earlier is now completely different, but still this is also an invoice, right? So if we try to analyze this, let's see what happens. Again, we are now still in the general document category. Here, right, there is phone number that got extracted, then date, like this is exactly the time at which I made that transaction, then the items, right. Here if you see, it is able to extract table, right. So this is something that we just spoke about, right. FormRecognizer can actually extract tabular data as well. So if you see this, most of the content is very correct. Right, I purchased a marigold biscuit packet. Along with that, I had this milk Wikis packet and then one soda. Right, and then here is the total, like 40 rupees. And the total quantity is 3 because there are 3 items, but this is not, the solution is not able to extract that information. Right. Now let's look at another scenario. So all of you have your own designation, right, at your firm. Like you might be operating your own firm, still you'll have some official designation, right, for contacting people. So for that, what we use is we use business cards, right? So any of you have business card on your name? Like at least identity card, the office identity card, right? All of you must have that, right? So let's look at this business card here. So this card actually belongs to one of my colleague who is sitting, who is actually standing at the end, right? You can see him. Or maybe you can wave your hand, right? So his name is Kranti. So let's see how we can utilize this card and extract information. Right? So if you see this, it is not able to extract anything, right? There is nothing that is coming out. Now let's go back to the studio and then let's try this business cards model. So again, this is a pre-built model. We are not building anything here, but we are going to see if we can consume that. Let's add the same file and let's analyze this. Now, here you can see that he actually works for EPAM. Is that right? Yeah. And his name is Kranti. Good. Then he's a talent acquisition manager. That's his designation. And then the mobile phone and the website, right? So imagine that if we need to write a program for this, right? As a developer, it takes a lot of effort, right? Because we might be working on different technologies, right? I started my career as a server programmer. I used to write C#, Java, then Node.js, right? Right now, I am focusing on JavaScript frameworks like React and micro frontends primarily, right? Now, for a engineer like me, if I need to build a solution like this, it's a nightmare. Like it might take months and months for me to just understand how to do that, right? But this form recognizer is actually helping me. It's like empowering me to go and build a solution without having too much knowledge on it. But the thing is that the good thing about this is we can actually start learning it as we go on. The moment we start actually getting our hands dirty, right? The moment we start training our models and trying to understand how they behave and all, we'll also try to learn how machine learning concepts work. So let's see now, so far what we have been doing is we have been consuming what is out there, right? Let's see how we can create our own model. We'll go back to Form Recognizer Studio and we'll start with a custom model. So here there are two flavors. One is a templated one and another one is a neural document, right? So we are not going to details about the neural models because the training itself takes a lot of time. Rather, we are going to focus on templated custom models. So let's start by creating a project. AzConf workshop. Now, the good part about this, right? All you need is 5 documents to get started. Like if you have 5 documents in the same form, right? Like it can be an image, it can be a PDF file, right? So there are like a few different formats that are supported for this. You select the subscription. I'll create a new resource group. I'll just say Azure Conf workshop. Then when it comes to the location, it is better to select the region where you are going to run most of your workloads. So this is a demo, right? So I'm going to just select India. I'll rather put Central India here. I'm going to use standard tier. API version, you can actually use general availability. That is the recommended one. Now to store the documents, right? Because you need some documents for training, you typically put them in the blob storage. Blob storage is again an Azure resource. I'll just use this for now. We need to create a storage account. Select a region that is close to you. Again, I'll use India. Right, and now we can continue. So this is where you can actually review, and if you need to make any change, you can go back and edit that. So this takes a minute to get the resources up. Now, what happens is you have these documents within your ecosystem, right? They might be running probably in a data center, right? You might be storing them in some repository. Now, to train them, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to identify the relevant documents that you need to train. Let's say you are working in an enterprise, right? And there could be a lot of such templates, right? For different purposes, you will have different templates. Now, when you want to build a solution, you need to identify the relevant documents. Like this is like one of the first steps that happens in any machine learning solution. You need to identify the relevant data sets, right? You need to do some kind of pre-processing so that you identify whatever documents are useful for you, only those documents should be put in the training. I think it is still creating, right? Okay. Now, once you identify those documents, right, then what you need to do is you need to start labeling them. For labeling them, you can use this tool. You upload your documents into blob storage. Again, it's secure. If you want to know about the security considerations, the security compliances and all, you can go to the Microsoft website and see how it is certified. Now, the resources have been created. Let's try to upload some documents for training. So here, what I did was I kind of chose randomly selected identity cards. Like I took pictures of whosoever I met, right? Like David is one guy here. Like I met him, so I took his picture as well. So I don't know whether it is present here, David. Right? So the way it is going to work is you have this document, right? Let's say this is our document, for example, in this instance. You have first name, last name. You have the designation and you have the firm, and here at the bottom we see speaker, right? Like if we want to use an enumeration, we can say it could be a speaker, it could be an attendee, or it could be a crew member, or it could be an organizer, right? So let's see how to start modeling this. So we know that in this document we are interested in 5 different fields. For example, first name, last name, designation, the firm, and the participant type. So you see this button here, right? Now here we can actually start creating the fields that we are interested in. So I'll just give those names here. First name, last name, organization. Then we'll have audience, category. Then we'll also have designation. Now, once we identify the labels that we are interested in, right, now you can also do something like this. Like you can actually select what is the possible data type of it. Like in your model, so we know that the name is in all probability it's a string, right? But if you look at date of birth, you need some format, right? You typically in numbers there. It could be a slash, it could be a hyphen. There could be a format for that. And if you know that it is a pure integer, like the amount, right? For example, the total amount of an invoice, you can choose integer. And if it is time, like if you have some invoice time or printed time, you can actually select that as well. For now, I'm going to leave them as defaults for this purpose. Now let's see how we can do this. Now the moment you select this image right here, you see there is a yellow color highlight right here. Here. You see here. That is because there is an OCR engine that is actually running behind the screens. So it is actually reading the documents that we are uploading, and then it is saying that, hey, this is where I am able to extract the text information, some information rather. Now you can actually go and label this. So let's say Anand is the first name, Shubh is the last name, organization is Microsoft. This is the designation. Oh, sorry, my bad. You can select the region and you can map it. Then this is the audience category, right? So likewise, I'll just go on and update the rest of the 4 documents as well. Oh, my bad. So Korea is the last name. This is the designation. And this is the organization, right? He is also a speaker. So we have 2 more documents to go. Let's do it fast. Manchu, first name, Mishra, last name, organization, designation, this category, and the last one. Now, I think the reason why I put this one here, right? Yeah, you might have met Anbu. Have you seen him? Like, he's one of the organizers. So we are actually thankful for him for putting this show together. Like, to Anbu and his team. So here, if you see, there is no designation as such. So I'm going to put this as the form for now. And this is the audience type, right? So once we have selected the documents for training, once we have labeled this, then we can train them. So before we train them, we need to give a model ID. So this model ID is something that we are going to use later on when we want to evaluate the documents. Workshop is the so here, as I said, right, I'm going to use the templated model. So this takes like a minute. Typically, it completes in a minute. So let's see how much time it takes now. Now, one of the questions that came in, right, while we were speaking was, there was some number that was actually being shown, right, after we identified the value of it. So that is known as confidence score. So what it tells is, the form recognizer resource, right, the moment you try to evaluate your model, it will actually give you a confidence score saying that, okay, I am 90% confident that this is the value of it, right? Now, do you trust it? It's a business call that you need to take. Like if the confidence score is beyond an accepted value, right? Let's say if your organization says that if Form Recognizer is giving me back any value which has 80% or 85% of confidence, I'm going to accept it, right? So you need to build some rules around that, whether or not to accept that value. So let's see, let me refresh it. So it succeeded, right? Let's see what is this about. So here we see all the labels that we have trained, right? And we also see the accuracy of it. So by accuracy, what we mean is the resource, the form recognizer service, it is able to detect that particular tag or field with 80% or 70% or 90% accuracy, right? Let's download this thing and see what is there in this model. Yeah. So here we can see all the fields that we have trained, right? And this is the model ID that we have used, and this is the time at which we actually started doing the work. Now, So far so good, we have trained it. But how do we test it? Because once we train it, we are not done there yet. We want to actually start consuming that, right? So there is an interface for testing. We can come here, right? So the good part about this studio is it actually uses your last trained model. So we can choose a file. So this is the training set. So I will go to the testing set. So I'll select an image here, add file, right? So this is like one of those photos that I have taken, right? Here we don't have any name, right? Let's see what the outcome is. Here we see that the audience category has been identified as crew, which is correct, right? But because there is no name, though there is no first name, last name and all, it's not able to identify, which is good. And if you look at this, the service is actually telling us that I am 91% confident that there is no name there. And in this case, it is saying that, hey, I'm like 99.4% confident that this guy actually belongs to the crew. So let's test another document, right? Add file. Now we can click on analyze. So here we see that the audience is actually coming up correctly, right? He's an organizer, but there is no designation here, right? So organization is coming as Microsoft MVP. First name is Amal, last name is Dev. Now let's look at another photo that I have taken, right? I thank David for that. Let's see how this is going to respond. Hopefully it works. Say hi to David. Can you guys see? He's here. Let's analyze this. So he is a speaker, which is right. There is no designation that it is able to detect, and his first name has been identified as Rockstars, which is incorrect, right? Here you can also see the confidence is quite low, right? And the last name is IT, which is again wrong, right? Because his name is David Who. And the organization, it says that I'm not able to detect it, and I'm 93% confident about it, right? So one key takeaway from this is, if you are actually using your training data set, right, you need to include all the possible variations that you can think of during the training phase. And during the evaluation phase, you will see outliers, definitely, because you will have users who will be sending you the documents, right? All these documents that we see here have been clicked by me on phone, right? We don't know how the users are actually going to send you the documents. It could be in a JPG format, it could be PDF, right? Like God knows how many formats we are going to receive. So that is the one of the reasons why we actually need to take care of the human verification, right? Like, though we are actually trying to automate this, it is actually trying to help us in one way, but we still need to give it some support from our side. So that is where we need to have someone who can actually verify these documents. At least, let's say if you are automating like 10,000 documents, right? You need to have few sample documents, right? You need to have someone who can actually sit together, like once in a week or once in a month. You just try to see whether the solution that you have deployed is actually working correctly or not. Otherwise, what will happen is, we'll continue to automate this. The client will be happy, we'll get our salaries. After 6 months, 7 months down the line, we'll realize that there is a problem, right? So that's one of the reasons why it's very essential to have human in the loop. Okay, now let's go back to the slides, right? So we saw this, right? Yeah, so Azure Applied AI Services, right? There are like quite a few of them. Today we are actually focusing on Form Recognizer, right? So as we saw, we can actually use business cards, then identity documents, right? So identity document is something that we have not seen in the demo, but I'll show that shortly, right? If you have something like passport, right? Passport is again a standard document, right? Like it's all over the world, it's an accepted document, and it has its own template. You can use Form Recognizer to get information out of it. So one concept that I wanted to highlight was bounding polygon, right? So this is nothing but in this entire image, right, in this entire document, if you look at my name, it is actually giving me some coordinates where actually I can find it. So typically it starts from top left and it ends at bottom right. Then can we train our own model? Yes, obviously we saw that, right? So to start with, we only need 5 documents to get started. So we saw the custom models as well. Then key considerations, right? So the higher the quality of the document, the better will be your outcome. So if your documents are in a specific format, right, and it has a certain definition, so you can actually check this on Microsoft website. I am going to skip this one. Now the integration patterns, right? So let's say if you have a web app or a mobile app, right, using which users are actually sending you the documents, the first and foremost thing that we need to do is we need to scan that. Like you don't want to just run that through your solution directly because it could be a corrupted document, right? There could be a virus in that. So the first and foremost thing that we can do is we can scan it. Once we are confident that there is no virus in that, you'll put that through your document management solution. And in this document management solution, you are going to integrate with the FormRecognizer. Once FormRecognizer gives you the response, then you need to do the verification, as I said, right? We need to have an additional layer of defense for our solution by running custom rules, because FormRecognizer will only give you the information that you need, like what is there and what it can actually see. But we need to verify. So let's say if you are running an identity document, right, for example, or maybe the example that we saw, like first name, last name, you need to check in your solution, like as in your database, whether that person actually exists or not, right? Because if FormRecognizer says that I'm 90% confident that this person's name is John Doe, would you trust it? No, you should not, right? You need to have your own set of verification, right? And if you are offline, what you typically do is you typically put all your documents in a document store already. From there, you are going to read that through probably a batch process, and then you are going to process the same, right? The flow will remain the same. Thanks, everyone.